Hello and welcome to the UK Game Shows Bothers Bar Poll of 2020 Results Show. Once again, you've been casting votes in your droves, and I don't even know what a drove is, but that's what you've been casting your votes in. And so you can tell us what you think have been the most notable shows of the past year. So before I continue, let's introduce the rest of tonight's panel. First of all, we have a man who, for the past week, has had to put up with hundreds of people outside his window shouting, "Stop the count!" Uh, uh, at least I think that's what they were saying. It's our returning officer. It's Nick Gates.
Hi
Hello,
there.
Nick.
How's it going?
It says on my script brackets chat brackets.
Great.
So how's the count been going this year?
It's been great. It's a record number of ballots. It's very, very exciting. I always love it right up until it actually gets to put it all together. Then I hate it. But until that point, I love it, and it's all ready. It's all very exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you all think of the results that you voted for, viewers.
Yeah, and there's literally thousands of votes. So
Yeah.
very, very closely fought. Next, a man whose job on Only Connect this year has required him to research photos for an untidy bed, mouldy cheese, and a very small penis, which means that this is the first year he's had to receive both a salary and picture royalties. It's Dan Keith.
Good evening, I think. Thank you very
Hello
much for
there,
having
Dan.
me.
Yes. How do you think the voting is going to go today?
I'm really interested to see how this, because of course it's a year like no other, how it's going to affect the votes. I had opinions when looking through the list of all the shows that came out in 2020 that surprised me. So I'm going to say what I think about the year as we go on. I had a few surprises, and yeah, I'll leave that as we go through tonight.
All right, fair enough. And finally, our special guest this year is an actor, a pub quiz master, improviser, master of science graduate, director, voiceover artist, comedian, and TV development producer. And so her presence here means that this panel now has an average amount of talent. She's worth 55 points in Scrabble. She's Lizzie Skipiet.
Hello.
Hi there, Lizzie.
Hi, I'm just happy to be here, if I'm honest. I had no plans.
Well, we're glad to hear that you've managed to clear your very busy diary, no doubt, for us to be here with us for the first time. So we'll guide you through the process. It's all very easy. Basically, just jump in when you have something to say. But we're glad for you to be here with us today.
Cool. I'm looking forward to sharing some opinions.
Speak your brains. That's basically the name of the game. That's the panel. So on Twitter, you can hashtag BBPoll. But I think most people are in YouTube chat. I can see all the messages whizzing away there. So say hello to us from that. We will try and keep half an eye on it, although we are doing a million and one things behind the scenes at the same time. So let's crack on with our first category, which is the Hall of Shame, where we traditionally start. And this is for the worst new show of the past year. And those are the results from last year. And we are 3 out of 5 there, I think. I don't think Small Fortune Switch or Headhunters are coming back. Hello, Hey Tracy had a Christmas special, and Infrapenny is doing okay business for ITV World.
I think Hey Tracy has got a second series, and Small Fortune is coming to America at some point.
Yeah, but as far as we're concerned, it's dead. But so mixed results is I think it's fair to say. So what we tend to do is we tend to blast through the 6 to 10 positions relatively quickly, and then we go into the top 5. So the man with the golden envelope is there.
It's very exciting. This is all for show because I don't know the results already. But here we are. Oh, it's very exciting. So at number 10, it's a reboot of Family Fortunes. Come to Gino. Number 9, First and Last. Number 8, Epic Game Show. Number 7, Rolling in It. Number 6, Little Mix: The Search.
Interesting. I'm slightly surprised that Rolling in It is in the worst list. A little bit intrigued as to that. At least it's not in the top 5.
A lot of
The Family Fortunes reboot as well. Harsh.
I think it's harsh. I've quite enjoyed what I've seen. It was one of the things that no one's expecting to work, and ended up working pretty well. So it's doing pretty good.
Gino's a funny man.
He is. It's doing good numbers as well. So it's surprising, possibly.
But it's the 10th worst, right? So it's not the worst.
Oh
worst.
no. And it should be pointed out that
the year where there's not been.
It's a year with fewer new formats than usual as well. So it's a smaller group to vote for.
Yeah. I mean, like, I worked on the Rolling in It, so if these were some of the worst shows, then the really good ones must be really good. Yeah, well, it's difficult, isn't it? I think there's only going to be maybe 15 shows that people will have even heard of, given that there's like 40 shows. 45 shows. Normally in a year, there's about 60 new formats. So there's only, I think it was definitely down on previous years this year.
That was my first observation when going through things. I normally make a short list of, say, about 8 or 9 shows that I want to vote for best and or worst. And this time it was a case of, right, well, actually, I've only really got 4 or 5 that I want to vote for in each category, which is the first time that's happened for a few years.
I think it's probably quite telling that there's way fewer people who actually put any votes in for the Hall of Shame and the Hall of Fame. Barely sort of 1/3 of the possible sort of votes in the Hall of Shame were actually taken up. So that's quite interesting, I think.
Okay, so let's go for number 5, please, Nick.
Number 5, Winning Combination.
Okay. It's missing something, isn't it? I think for me that's the only reason I think I voted. I think I didn't put it on in my worst list, but I think it's just missing a little something. Omin's a good host.
Omin's a brilliant host. I'm really surprised it's taken him this long to get a show or be asked to do a show, or whether he's turned it down before. I don't know. He certainly outshines the format, I think.
I missed this. I completely missed this show. This was an ITV one, wasn't it?
Yeah, ITV Afternoons, that's right. It's from the same people behind The Chase.
Development first started in 2013 when a certain young peakster was employed by Potato. I actually worked right at the beginning of this, and it's evolved significantly in my time since. But the general concept is still there. It just feels like it's missing something to me. That's the only thing I can say. I think the format is solid. It's got a good winning ratio at the end in terms of winners and losers. Maybe we'll see it in the top 5 as well.
I do quite like the end game, but I do think, as everyone is pointing out on the chat right now, it's very repetitive as a format. Sometimes it works, that's fine, and sometimes it goes against it. If you like a lot of questions, then you're well served for questions and Winning Combination. For me, I'm not really a quiz head, so I want a little bit more myself. So it's well hosted. I won't say how well it's done in the Hall of Fame, but 5th in the Hall of Shame so far.
So basically, what you're saying, Dan, is you worked on it, and it took them 8 more years to piece it back together after you had it.
Yes, it was a solid format. I got to it. It fell apart.
Okay, well, I mean, that says a lot. I think it basically didn't have any sort of reason for the contestants to argue against each other tactically. There wasn't really much tactics to it, and I think there probably could have been opportunities for tactics, and maybe they hadn't. It also felt a little bit rushed. It had quite a lot of content at the time, and I think it could have been a bit looser, personally. All right, and number 4, we have
Very Hard Questions.
I have an opinion here. Why is this not number 1?
It was dry show. I will admit,
Yes.
It was a dry show.
Absolutely agree.
But John's brilliant jokes going in and out of the episode, surely.
For me, this
scripting
was
good.
only connect without the personality. That's kind of how I would describe it. I thought the format was also quite confusing. You've got all these different lifelines, which must have been an absolute nightmare for the question writers to write, because they've had to write all the different lifelines for every single question. and the questions weren't for me. They weren't interesting enough to land the format.
Yeah, Channel 4 have a checkered history with quiz, and I think they're really searching for one to bring them back into sort of people's minds for daytime quizzing. But was it primetime quizzing?
It was just prime time. Yeah.
Well, it was a more for.
Yeah.
So it was
Oh,
it was like 8:30 or more for. So that's like niche
Right.
of niche, and yeah, obviously Only Connect started on chat on BBC for. So I can see where the logic was, but
Mhm.
I mean, I couldn't really get myself past the fact that I think was it Ian Weaver, our columnist, said that something like at least 47% of the stuff that the question writers wrote would never ever get to screen.
Mm.
Which it just seems extremely wasteful as a format to do that kind of thing. I know
Yeah.
it doesn't really concern the viewer, but it's just somebody who has to churn out this stuff in other shows. Then yeah, it just seemed a tad wasteful that maybe there could have been, and also like. What really bugged me is like, oh, this is a really hard show with really impossible questions, and now here's the 9 different lifelines that you're going to use. First letter means we're going to give you the first letter of the answer. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, it's like, could we not have worked that out ourselves? It didn't have to spoon feed quite so much on that front, I don't think.
A couple of people in the chat saying they didn't mind the questions were okay, but they do point out that the scheduling was strange. They did an episode at 8 p.m. and then at 10 p.m. most weeks, so it was one episode for an hour, something else for an hour, and then another episode for an hour, and that's a very good point. It was strange scheduling again. Yeah.
Okay, number 3.
Number 3 was The Bridge.
I didn't watch this. I'll admit I didn't watch this. I'm hoping one of you three.
I
has.
I watched a bit of
I watched
this.
the first episode.
It was a lot of people arguing around logs,
Yeah.
and I can watch that for a while, and after a bit, I was like, oh, they're not in a nice, desirable location. I think they're sort of in a forest, and I did tune out in the end.
Your accent went very Coronation Street. I don't know why. Gee,
I don't know.
You get some logs from the back of the shed here for the fire.
A lot of people pointed out in the comments that there was, for a show about building a bridge, there was not actually any building a bridge in it hardly, which is you know, it was Challenge Janica, but with interpersonal issues, and not much else, not much Challenge Janica stuff. So there you go, The Bridge.
If you've got a show called The Bridge, I want to see the bridge being built as being a central part of the show, not the money side of things, if that makes a sense.
I've worked on a lot of formats called The Bridge, all very different. I think it's a title that gets used a lot.
We'll give it some respect for being one of the few reality shows to be able to film during the period,
True.
which is fair. But it wasn't very good. So
Kind of get a sense that it's Channel 4 being mean to contestants because they can be. Sort of pulling the rug from under contestants. There's friendly pulling the rug from out of the contestants with a surprise and twist of format.
Yeah.
And then this kind of felt mean.
Well, certainly Ian Reeves our columnist felt that the hand of the producers was a bit heavy on it. All right, let's move on. So number 2, we have...
The Wheel.
Oh.
Oh my! Not a lot of love for
put
the
that
wheel.
there. Would have put that there. Okay.
I'm going to say
Yep.
that this is going to be a Marmite show. I reckon a lot of people are going to hate this show and a lot of people are going to like this show. So I reckon we'll see this in the, I'm going to say, top 2 of the other list as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
A lot of people.
It's funny because it's not question heavy, is it? Like as a show, it's a lot of chats with celebrities, which I like. I liked watching some of the celeb chat, and then about 11 questions. Is it even 11 questions a show? Sometimes it's quite.
You can theoretically just get 8 if everything is sort of answered correctly. You can just get 8 questions.
And also there are some celebs whose advice I don't want. I do not want help. I do not want help from Joey Essex on a World War II question. Like, leave me alone.
That is one of the fun parts of the format, though, I think. Oh, look, the wheel has spun Joey Essex into World War II. Brilliant.
And but at the end, it ranks the genius. It ranks the celebs, doesn't it? And you can take the celeb who's helped you the most and got the most right into the final question. And I'm not sure I'd ever want to take them in, really, because I don't really believe...
I'm always
like, if you've gone on a show... You want to answer the questions yourself.
I'm almost slightly baffled that people just don't go for the big money all the time, because chances are the last one is likely to be a guess anyway. So you might as well go for the money. But there you go. Sort of comments that people sort of suggested was that they didn't like the randomness of the winner. They couldn't work out, is it a game show? Is it a chat show? What is it? Like, etc., etc. For some people, it didn't satisfy. But like I said, we're always quite high up, but it probably should be pointed out that there are far fewer votes given in the Hall of Shame than in the other categories this year. So it has done badly in terms of positioning. But
it's a high-profile show, so it'll attract the votes as well.
Yeah.
One thing I liked about it, just because I've realised I've said some bad things about it, but like I kind of did enjoy the questions.
Yeah, the questions.
I thought they were a good level.
I think they're well written. Yeah.
Super accessible, super interesting as well.
I mean, we watched.
I just want them to be more.
I'm saving my good comments for the wheel for the second half, so
assuming it makes it, which is very, But I watch it. I look after my mum, and we watch it over dinner the next day, and we're always discussing the questions. I think they're pretty well pitched, generally speaking.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway.
Right, so this leads us to the so-called winner of this category for this year, which is...
probably got more votes than actual viewers. It's The Chop.
Fair. Okay, actually, I take back my earlier suggestion of why was very hard questions not at number one. This is fine. I am happy with this.
Largely because of Sky's belligerence, I think is one of the main reasons. Obviously, you want to background check contestants a bit better.
It does bring up a good point. Casting a show is an underrated job. You need to have a successful show with a successful cast. It has to be diverse in terms of age, sex, gender, race, and of course, political spectrums were not too far. But as you said, they didn't spot something they should have done. Casting team should have picked it up. The producers should have picked it up. Fine. Sky then doubled down on it, and that was the mistake.
You do think we're a history channel?
Yes.
I feel quite bad for the production team, really, because I mean, like, it will have been some sort of mid-level casting person's initial contact with that person, and they would have chatted to this nice guy, and then they would have sold that person up the chain and said, "Oh, I've just found this guy who's really into his word, whatever, if you excuse the expression." And it's just not in the manual, the casting manual, to sort of go, hang on a second, have you before we talk to this guy, have you checked what his tattoos look like? It's just not something you would ever have thought to have done, and I can quite understand personally how it just got through as far as it did. Yeah, absolutely. When they found out, they should have really have cancelled it a lot quicker and more sympathetically. Because it was clear that several of the claims that were being made were not true, and demonstrably so, because there were newspaper articles and interviews with the guy that definitely were proof to that.
He was saying it was his father who had died in that year when the father was still alive. That's something that would have come up. They would have been able to spot that. I'm a little bit less forgiving than you, David. I think they should have picked it up, especially, as you say, it's for Sky History. If any channel is going to pick it up, Sky History really should have done. Anyway, it's done. It's never going to see the light of day now. As you say, there's a lot of people who did good work on that show. It might be a decent format. Will they try it again? Absolutely no idea. Probably not. It's probably tainted. There's a lot of people whose good work has gone down because of this. So there is a little bit of a shame there. But
All right. Well, so an unusual Hall of Shame winner, but that's what you have decided. Now, as per previous years, for those of you that are watching on the our viewers, you can go to tinyurl.com/barpoll2020 and you can tell us some additional facts about what you think of various things. We've got about 8 or 9 questions. One of them is relating to the shop, actually. So you can go to that and tell us what you think of what's been happening with the game shows of the past year. And then in about 45 minutes' time, we'll come back to the poll and we'll go through the results. So I'll just leave that up on the screen for 10 more seconds. tinyurl.com/barpoll, BARPOLL 2020, and hopefully that will bring up a form for you to fill out and should be relatively straightforward after that. And I shall check if responses are coming in later on. It's currently just me, but it's quite long form. Right, let's move on. So we can get to talk about lovely happy things now. It's a Hall of Fame. So this is for the best new show, and these are the results from last year. And we are 4 for 5 on those. Only Family Brain Games didn't quite make it.
Oh.
So,
Sorry, David.
That face
Oh,
emoji. So it's fine. It's fine. I'm over it. So, Nick, do you want to take us through the minor placings for this one?
Yes,
please?
if I can open the envelope, which wasn't meant to be a challenge.
Have you been given the right envelope by the independent adjudicator?
Right, here we go. Right, cool. Right, so minor placings 10 through 6. Number 10, Crackerjack. Number 9,
good.
Family Crackerjack. Yeah, thank you. Number 9, Family Fortunes. Come to Gino. 8, Epic Game Show. 7, Very Hard Questions. 6, Winning Combination.
Yeah, fair.
okay, so there's not enough shows, are there? What's happened?
It was a year in which not a lot of new things happened. In a year when you have to pick what you produce, essentially, more than normal, you tend to go with the tried and tested, we've done this, let's do another 50, 100 shows of pointless, whatever the chase, over a new format. It's not the time to try it, is it?
Yeah, shame.
Okay, well, that's the minor placings. So at number 5.
Number 5 is not first or last, it's first and last. The incredible
I thought they had some good rounds in that. I quite enjoyed it, if I'm honest. I thought it was a nice tea time show. I enjoyed the hashtag round. I thought the jumping out of a box was funny.
I'm just amazed.
Go
on.
Go on.
So I'm just amazed that normally if a show spends 10, 15 years in development hell, it finally comes on, it's rubbish. But this was pretty good. It was all right.
Yeah. It was light-hearted, and I think people didn't... I think, as we'll see with The Wheel, people don't quite know what to make of the comedy side of things. They either want a quiz or a comedy show, and this is one, like The Wheel, that falls in between the two. And some people don't quite know what to make of it, which is why I think it's relatively low on this list.
I think Jason Manford sold it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say the same thing. I thought Jason Manford was not only funny and good at improvising and interacting with the contestants, he was very solid on the format as well. I just felt maybe perhaps there could have been a little bit more variety in the games, because they sort of did feel a little bit like they were all to do with predictions, and I felt like I would have benefited if there was some kind of game about building a tower or something like that, where you had to try and do it sort of quickly but not too quickly. I understand that they did try some games like that in development, and they didn't quite work because people kept sandbagging or whatever. But anyway, I think if they had another go at that, I wouldn't mind seeing what they came up with, and I would definitely watch it because I think I watched virtually all of that series. So yeah, it was
It's
good.
quite fitting that it came number 5, not the top or bottom of this list.
Yeah, right in the middle of the top 10. Okay, number 4, Nick.
Number
please.
4, Rolling in It.
Hey.
No one cheer.
No, I like Rolling. I was at the pilot for Rolling in It, and I thought this is all right, but this needs some changes. And they changed bits; it's better. So really, I'm taking all the credit for Rolling in It being quite good.
How do we feel about mixing celebrities and punters? Because I always think that's a weird thing to do. Because I never think the celebrity really cares if that punter wins or not.
Oh,
And the
well,
and the
I mean,
celebrities are rarely funny enough to be on there for comedy value. They're usually just on Coronation Street.
I remember.
It's because it was filmed in Manchester, so I imagine that it wasn't that hard to get them to walk around the corner to turn up to the studio. I was there for a couple of the recordings because I worked on this as a consultant for sort of working out the maths of it, and I felt that the atmosphere in the studio was really good, and Stephen's really great with the audience, and yeah, but I have to admit, the old-fashioned theory of mixing celebrities and punters is always a bit dodgy. I felt they got away with it on this one.
Well, do you think it would be would it still work if it was just punters?
It might have to be if we want to do another series anytime soon.
Yeah,
I think it would. I think it would. Would it be pairs of contestants then, or?
Yeah, I think it would work if it's just pairs of contestants. I think Stephen's funny on his own.
Yeah, agreed.
I guess he'd have to take a little bit more time to sort of establish a backstory. So rather than it being like, oh, we know who Gemma Collins is, but who are you with Gemma? You'd have to sort of introduce two people for each of the pairs. So it would take a little bit more time. However, it's not a blisteringly fast-moving show. So
and Gemma Collins was funny.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you could sort of reduce the chat on the questions a bit, and I think you would have time to do it that way. It's an interesting point.
Someone in the chat has said it is a horizontal tipping point, which I like. I like the description of.
I was always aware of that actually, and originally I think it was almost pitched at a tipping point type of time slot, and I'm very glad that they kind of repositioned it as a more of a once a weekend thing instead. I think it works a lot better that way. Okay, number 3, please.
Number 3 is The Wheel.
Oh, I said it'd be top 2. I
really like The Wheel in that, particularly, I felt that we have been lagging behind somewhat in sets. If you look at like French studio quizzes, even the most mundane crossword word format will have a set that looks twice as good as our best sets do, and this is the first time I think, well, apart from maybe the new Millionaire set, which is done by the same guy anyway, it's the first set I felt that has been up to HD quality, if you like, in terms of you can't see the screws. And
fantastic set. And that top-down shot must have been very difficult to get right, with all the lights in perfectly in the center. I mean, that's the easiest bit, but having that top-down shot is fantastic.
I really like The Wheel. I quite like the chat and the interaction with the contestants. I would love it to be 10 minutes shorter. Is the minor comment.
I'm not sure. I watched last night's and I thought it was the right length. So the first time I watched it, oh my goodness, I thought it dragged. And I've seen a tweet from you, Nick, saying it feels in the uncanny valley in between quiz and comedy. And actually, I think it does the first time you watch it, but then you get used to it.
Yeah, I agree.
The second time I watched it, I really, really liked it. And Yeah, I don't think it does need to be shorter. Actually, that's just me.
I mean, basically, it's just fun, and I completely want to go sitting on the wheel. To be honest, I love big fairground ones like that. That seems like a lot of fun. Everyone's
And
having
this
fun.
is
It's
a
a show
show-
everyone's having fun on, and also, interestingly, it's the only new show this year, maybe, that doesn't feel compromised by the pandemic. It feels like it should look like that, rather than because
Yeah.
there's COVID flying about.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was a big reason for it to get commissioned. I understand.
Yeah.
It was they were looking around for which shows can they do that,
Yep.
that would work for the COVID conditions, and then they went, oh, of course, this would work well. So that's one of the reasons why it went to the top of the pile.
And now
I
the big,
will
if you
I
want
have
to
a
be on the
question
wheel,
about. Oh,
Go on.
sorry.
Oh,
Do
no.
you like the wheel? You don't get to see the mechanics of it, right? So I wonder, do you trust the mechanics of a wheel that spins around and electronically stops when you don't know? You don't see any button pushing. You
I
don't
know
see.
Beyond Dispute are behind it, and I have
Yes.
every faith that they're.
So this was my first big problem when I watched it. I was like, how do we know that the producers aren't fixing it? And then Olivia van der Werf from Beyond Dispute said, excuse me, I worked on this show, and I went, I know it's solid. They're
Yeah.
a solid company. I've worked with in the past. So I have no doubt that it is entirely fair. Yes, it would be nice to try and somehow make that more transparent somehow, but I'll take it. It's fine as it is.
if you want to be on the wheel, just get yourself some joysticks and a gas lift chair, and it'll work the same way. It'll work the same way.
I was going to say.
All right,
Well, just before we move on, the BBC now have quite an interesting problem in that Big Show is popular, and now they've got another popular Michael McIntyre show, and how they're going to try and fit each one into a schedule now, because that wasn't an issue before, but now it sort of is. So a nice problem to have. But I'm intrigued to see when the next series of the Wheel will actually come about.
He is
got
allowed
one more
to do more than
comment.
one series.
He's not. Yeah, he's
I've got one more comment about the wheel, which is the soundtrack. It's got
Oh yeah, absolutely.
possibly the catchiest theme that we've had for a very,
Very
long
long
time.
time.
Fantastic theme.
Yeah.
And I think without Michael McIntyre dancing around in the middle, because you hear it 6 or 7 times in the show, the show would actually be massively down the list.
Yeah, I think it would.
So I'd like to highlight Paul Farrah's work there. It is fantastic. Fantastic. I've listened to it on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube, the extended mix. I have done it for an hour or two. It's a fantastic thing. So I think props to that. It's a mediocre format. It's strong enough on its own, but combine that with the fantastic set and the fantastic soundtrack, we've got a winner
The
here.
production sells the show, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Number 2, please.
Number 2 is Uaya, Uaya, Uaya. Who's that behind the mask? It's the Masked Singer.
Yes, I love the Masked Singer so much.
Absolutely.
It's so good.
I wish it was
It's
not an hour and a
amazing.
half, but other than that, I just watch it with Twitter constantly scrolling on my phone, trying to. It's the social media game show as far as I'm concerned. That's made for it, and it's great fun. At least it's in the initial weeks when no one knows who everyone is. I do wish there was a little bit more surprise at the end, but whilst it's fun, it's great fun. I love it.
But can I ask you all, why is this version successful when at least 2 other formats that have been almost identical have flopped badly?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the reason is, it just is.
Who knows? A couple of people in the chat have just said it's dumb, silly fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that why? Maybe.
I think the costumes kind
The
of
costumes
sell
are
it.
very
Like,
good.
They're
They're
fantastic.
really insane. They're pretty crazy. I enjoy watching them, and I enjoy the silliness of those costumes. I think.
I know
costumes are great.
Weaver of Weaver's Week reviewed it and basically didn't really like it. Didn't pan it, but didn't really like it. And I think those who think it's a singing show have missed the point. It's entirely not about the singing. Yes, there's singing in it. When I heard that it was going to be announced, oh, no, another singing show, I don't watch The X Factor, I don't watch Britain's Got Talent, it doesn't interest me. It's not about the singing. It's who are they? It's through the keyhole for singing.
Through from
Yeah,
last
it
night.
is.
It's,
That's a completely different format. And I don't know what websites you've been watching to see that. Right. Number one, it is.
Number one is Beat the Chasers. And it's
I knew this would
And
happen.
it's
I knew this would happen.
not even close. This was on almost
Oh, really?
3/4 of all the ballots.
it's amazing how many of you are wrong. Wow.
I'm
Is it
not having
because
that.
the type of people that answer polls are the type of people who enjoy Beat the Chasers?
Beat the Chasers was one of the most exciting shows that had significant format issues of the last year. And really, you always say sometimes you can save a poorly formatted show its production, and genuinely, it's been more edge of the seat in these hours than I think any other show I've seen in the last year. So yes, I absolutely agree with all the criticisms of the show. That the offers are ridiculous, that the cash builder is rubbish and meaningless. But when it comes down to it, watching someone win by a second 100 grand is exciting. And they played up into the personalities of the Chasers. And also, I love the fact that one of the best things about Beat the Chasers is that it proves that that the Chasers are just as bad at working as a team than members of the public, which is always fun to watch. So yeah, I don't love it, but I understand it definitely.
Well, yeah. And what's interesting to me is that certainly some of the newspapers have started to cotton on to the fact that people who like barely scrape one question and then fail that second question seem to get massively higher offers than people that get all 5 questions right. I mean, there was I think in the penultimate episode I saw somebody who got offered £2,000 at 45,000, and when they got 2 questions right, but somebody who got 1 question right got offered 100,000.
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. Yeah.
And that was I mean, and so it's all a bit back to front, and I just think the offers have too many numbers in anyway. You've got a time, the number of chasers, and the amounts, and it's like watching a spreadsheet. And I don't really think. What it is, it's like a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I don't think that's it's
I do
particularly very
think-
ideal.
I do think the number of chasers doesn't really make the biggest difference. It's the time, isn't it?
I mean, basically, they've done a very clever way of formatting. Can you get X questions right before you get Y questions wrong? And occasionally, the Chasers will add an extra fillip to it. But that is the format. But because they've dressed it up, is really good.
Yeah, it's well made. The questions are good. The set looks amazing.
And it's sold internationally. It's sold a lot of places very quickly, and it's done pretty well.
Hasn't it been on in? I think is it the Netherlands?
Yeah.
They've sold it in the Netherlands. It's been on. They don't have the chase, but they have
Fantastic
beat the
Chase.
chasers.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to say here, it's okay, but I didn't like it. And the reason I didn't like it is in a normal episode of The Chase, each contestant has to sit there and to win throughout the whole of the hour. They have to watch everyone else, and then they have to do their own thing, and then they have to do the thing at the end. And to me, that feels suitably enough effort. I kind of feel like the people don't earn it on this show. That's my biggest thing. Everything else I'm actually okay with. The questions are fine. I actually quite like the format. I don't like the fact that, hey, they come on, they answer a couple of questions, and then they get 100 grand or something. It doesn't feel, because it's a sister show with The Chase, for me, I want it to be as epic for the contestant as The Chase. And to me, it just feels like, come on, you play a quick game and then you're off. I
don't think it would work in tea time, but I do think the final suits prime time pretty well.
Oh, absolutely. I do agree with that. And
It's more
to
of
be
a
fair-
compendium as short stories, isn't it, rather than a big long narrative. And sometimes that's fine, but I think for watching it and rewatching it, after a while of short stories, you do want something a bit meatier.
I do think a week is the most I could watch in one sitting. After
They've
that,
been
I think
quite
for
canny
me-
with their scheduling.
They have,
Actually, they're doing what Millionaire did in the early days, and actually, I think that helps it.
Stripping it,
So, as long as they don't overdo it, that's also okay.
Yeah, I think that's all for a compliment. Okay, well done to Beat the Chasers. You are the best format of the year for the past year. So, quick reminder for those of you who haven't done so yet, we've got about 100 people watching, which is amazing, but we've had only 55 responses to the poll. So, if you haven't managed to get around to doing so yet, you've still got time. tinyurl.com/barpoll2020 if you want to, if you're watching and you want to offer your comments or about some of the things that have happened in the past year and other things. Right, we shall move on to our slightly quirky category now. So, largely, UK Game Shows and Bothers Bar covers sort of what you might call linear television and occasionally a bit of radio. But these days, there are vast ranges of media from Netflix and Amazon all the way down to individual people podcasting or doing Twitch streams, like Dan himself on our panel today. So this is a way of us sort of recognizing that there are other things going on, and it tends to be a little bit of a ragbag of different things, but we're trying to embrace that and saying that's a good thing. So
I've only got a top
last
5 here.
year,
Sorry, go ahead.
that's fine. That's fine. So those are what we had last year. I don't think we need to particularly go through those in any depth. So we'll just take the first of your top 5, Nick.
I'll just say that just outside the top 5 is Dan's quiz. Sorry, Dan. But
when I was filling out the form, I did not even consider myself or Ash, who hopefully is in the top 5, in this category at all. I didn't even consider that it would fall into it, but now that you mention it, it would.
I mean, it's a very interesting. When you're on Bothers Bar afterwards, you'll see a list of everything that was voted for, that got votes. So it's a very interesting list, actually. But in joint 5th, we got The Floor is Lava on Netflix and No More Jockeys.
Oh, I love No More Jockeys, except for the fact that I've only watched one episode because I haven't had the time to watch any more. But it's a great idea, No More Jockeys.
Mm-hmm.
I thought The Floor is Lava was fun.
Go
on.
So No More Jockeys is the what used to be called No More Women, which is a format that Alex Horn came up with, which is sort of like a word game, effectively. It requires it sort of the participants to kind of play it in the right way, otherwise it ends very quickly. Floor is Lava is a Netflix show, which I thought was pretty okay.
I thought it was okay. I thought after the first episode, I thought, oh, we've got to do puzzly things, and it didn't really work out like that throughout, which I thought was a shame. But it was. I mean, if it was an hour, it'd be rubbish. But a half hour, I thought it was pretty entertaining. It was fine. It was nice to see a show with a budget.
Yeah. I couldn't bring myself to watch it. That's terrible, isn't it?
It's worth watching.
I've not seen it either.
Okay, well, all right, that's then. Okay, so does that count as our number 4 as well?
No,
or is that...
No, that's joint 5th. So at number 4 is Fingers on Buzzers. Actually, down a couple of places from last year, but probably the premier quizzing podcast right now. I know there's some other ones that have started up quite recently, All Things Quiz and all that sort of thing. But this one has done quite well for itself. It's had live shows from the last couple of years. It's
got good quality guests and celebs and things that even Ben Shepherd's been on it. I mean, that goes to show you the sort of people that they get on there. But they do a good job at normalizing that it's okay to like quizzes. That means they're doing sterling work, in my opinion.
We got people saying, "Is it new show?" I think the new Media 5 is basically anything that had new episodes, like the Golden 5 last year. So last year it actually came second. So going for 18 months.
New media.
Yeah, it's doing pretty.
It's new media, not new.
Yeah.
Media.
Yes. Maybe my graphics are perhaps wrong. It's not really meant to be. Yes, new in the same sense as the previous category.
Yep.
Yeah. That's absolutely fine for it to be something that's an
ongoing concern. As long as there's new episodes
ongoing concern. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
Number 3 then. Number 3, it's Disconnected with Tom Scott.
Oh.
Which David Bodycombe worked on. And it was a great way to show off some new technology, the fun bluffing quiz. And YouTubers I've actually heard of, which is exciting.
I played that.
Did you
I
play
played the pilot. Is that right, David?
That's right.
I was terrible. I thought it'd be really good, but I was just awful. I'm too accusatory. I kept thinking, I kept pointing at people and losing points. That was not very good.
Yeah. It was very kind of a company called White Lightning, White Light, who were based in Wimbledon, not far from me actually. And they had this bit of kit that they said, "Do you want to come and use it?" And we said, "Oh, okay. We'll have to invent a game show to fit this space." And so, and normally they do like video conferencing, and they do things like if it's like the French Open tennis, and that because of COVID and stuff, the presenters can't sort of interview the players normally. So what they're able to do is put a camera in the bubble where the tennis players are and make it appear like the tennis player teleports to the studio. And because of the way that this sort of LED box works, it looks normal. The host is looking at the tennis player and vice versa. But it's actually all completely done through magic and smoke and mirrors. It's an amazing bit of kit. And rather than us trying to replicate a TV studio, we thought, well, we'd do something mad and set it at the top of an aerial. So we have tried to ship it around a few places, and people sort of find it a little strange because it's too TV for internet. It's not internet enough for TV. It's if you see what I mean, it's too internet for TV. It's sort of a bit in the middle, but I do think that there's room for something like this somewhere. We were very happy how it turned out.
Speaking of Tom Scott, I was disappointed that Tom Scott's money didn't get more votes, so I quite enjoyed that. But I think I was only the person who voted for it, unfortunately. Never mind, it was behind a paywall.
Not many people saw it, probably.
Well, it's... let me just put it this way. I know from speaking to somebody the other day, it's done very well for what they wanted it to do, in terms of getting people to sign up to the people that host it, and they've been promoting it several times. So watch this space, see if we get to do any more on that. But it's that's. I suppose it's been. We haven't had. Have we had any new episodes this year though of it?
Yeah, it was. Well, they filmed. I remember it coming out at the beginning of lockdown because I was watching it in my flat when I should have been working.
All right.
But yeah, I can't remember when I did the.
All right.
Anyway. Number 2, I'm going to put number 2 and number 1 together for reasons that will become obvious. But number 2 is Royal Flush's game night. And number 1 is Ash's quiz night.
Very happy with that. They have done a lot of work.
And I think it's fair to say that the difference in votes is possibly due to 500 questions, all that sort of thing. The occasional special one that Ash has done. But these have kept me occupied to the point where I should have been going out exercising and have in fact stayed in front of my computer for the entirety of lockdown. So I blame Ash and Ben for my forthcoming heart attack in the next couple of years.
This is getting a lot of love in the chat, I will say.
Yeah, I mean,
Ash the Bastard, I've done it, Mum.
Both of them have got some great. Their game show conversion, massively multiplayer game show conversions are very good, and their originals are also, very good. I really like Outright. I like the Escape Artist. I'm a big fan of Danger Zone. Genuine sweaty palms playing some of these games. I mean, they've been great stuff.
So let's just go back a little bit. So these are two people that run interactive quiz nights on Twitch. So if there'll probably be quite a large number of people who are watching this stream now that don't necessarily think of Twitch as a place to go to for your quiz content, but they are doing a mixture of some like formats that you might recognize, like their own homebrew versions of things like Blockbusters and Countdown or whatever, but they're also starting to develop now their own formats. And the brilliant thing about Twitch is that it's got a return path. So as well as just watching somebody answer the questions, you can take part and you can type in chat messages, which the computer will interpret live, and then you can have like leaderboards or points, or you can sell answers to the person playing live, and all this sort of thing. The sort of interactive possibilities are immense, and this is the very, very baby steps of something that, in future when we're all watching TV on 6G and on 54-inch screens and whatever, that like the technology and the live nature of television will become such that we will all be doing this in the future probably. So it's definitely something to watch out for. So search for Ash the Bash on and Royal_Flush on Twitch and see what they're up to.
On the UK game shows write up, there'll be direct links, so you can look at their past videos, all that sort of thing afterwards.
And you get communities as well, don't you? You get real communities of people playing these games. So there's a sense of not only that you're taking part, but that essentially you're socialising in a way.
Oh, nice. In a year where we can't do pub quizzes, these are kind of lifesavers, really, or where you can't socialise properly.
They've taken the ball, they've run of it, and no one else is redoing it. So great, as far as I'm concerned. They've done a really great job. If only Twitch can get rid of the delay, the latency, it'd be absolutely perfect. As it is, it all works pretty well. Nothing to do about that, unfortunately. So it's Twitch's fault, basically. So let's have a go at Twitch to sort that out.
I've got a question from Chris. Was there any love for Schlagden Brig?
I don't have the stats right in front of me, but yes, it got votes, yes.
Hooray! Good. Because one of the games that we did, that David just very kindly made, then went on to the main show proper in Germany. So, I mean, if that's not influential, I don't know what is.
Well, that and I had a task on Taskmaster this year as well.
True.
Oh yeah, we're lucky to have you, David.
Dave, the puppeteer behind all the exciting formats this year.
All right, very good. So, congratulations. Let's say joint congratulations to Royal and Ash on that. Right, it's time now for the results of our poll.
Oh, Ash was the real winner.
I'm going to drag this across, and hopefully this will.
If you don't mind me, if I take off our faces, I can do that. If that's better.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. I have the technology. I can just drag it across to the left, and it should appear okay. So we've got 62 responses so far. That's fine. That works for me. And so let's go through them. I'll just refresh them just to make sure I've not got any last minute ones. Okay, I'm going to lock the box. Okay, so the first two questions are standard. We have these every year. So was this a better or worse year than the previous year for game shows? Obviously, quite understandingly, a worse year just because fewer new formats around, and the ones that there were kind of COVID-friendly rehashes of previous formats that we'd already seen, so there wasn't all that much new to see. Which channel broadcast has made the game shows you've enjoyed the most? And the winner is ITV this year.
I'm not surprised. They take a lot of risks.
They do.
they're always putting new daytime formats on, and I think more so than any other channel. I think,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to game shows, they're
Is
always
a lot
putting
of
new
this
stuff
down
out.
to chase the case, beat the chasers. Different show entirely.
As I've been saying for
I'm not so sure.
as I've been saying for ages, you can go from sort of midday to 7 o'clock and watch pretty decent shows all afternoon if you want. And ITV are happy to put new shows on, and most of them are at worst they're average. At best, they're really good. So fair play to them.
I'm enjoying Lingo at the minute as well. Like
Lingo's all right.
there's a space for them, and they always put new stuff on. I like them.
I don't remember ITV winning in previous years, and definitely not by that much.
No.
Not by a ratio of 2-1 to the next winner, which is BBC Two. So that's probably kind of like the only Connect University Challenge Mastermind crowd, followed by BBC One. Normally Dave would be showing a lot more, but unfortunately, because of Taskmaster going, they aren't even listed, I'm afraid.
What a year for Channel 4 to buy Taskmaster. What a year. Oh, dearie me.
What's your preferred way of producers handling the COVID-19 situation regarding the filming of new quiz shows? So people have said use lots of Perspex screens. If people have said to me at the start of the year, invest in Perspex, it's going to be the big new thing. I wouldn't agree with it.
I saw right through them.
Way.
Right, I'm counting the minutes down. Right, so then people said cast within bubbles if possible, even if that restricts availability. I think a lot of people are slightly starting to get a bit annoyed about this sort of, you can come on this quiz show, but you have to bring 4 people from your bubble to come on Family Fortunes or whatever. But I suppose as long as there's a mix of strategies, it doesn't matter so much. And then position people far apart. Hardly anybody said don't film at all, interestingly. Next one. How should Sky have handled the chop after the contestants were found to have the issues we've mentioned earlier? So 50% of people said stop showing it. A third said show it with major edits.
That'd be really
and
hard.
A sixth said that it should have gone out largely unedited, but just put a caption at the front of it. What do we think of that?
No, you should stop showing it. You can't re-edit this sort of thing because you don't know. You can't just fade them away. You can't just have a sort of person-shaped hole.
Especially as they're probably essential to the format. And what if they won?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, that's hard.
I understand that he got quite far. I don't know if he won, but I understand he was one of the final few. So that probably helped swing the opinion to some extent. But and that's an interesting one. That's an interesting opinion.
Did you ever find out why that contestant was edited out of MasterChef?
No, I don't think we ever did. It could have been a lot of reasons. There was a claim that very unsubstantiated that apparently this one of the chefs was rude to Marcus Waring, and they sort of edited them out. I think the much more logical and practical reason is maybe that they possibly either died or a close relative died and whatever, and they weren't able to take part in future rounds, so they just got rid of him at that stage. Unfortunately, with just the number of sheer volume of people that you see on TV shows, a certain percentage unfortunately do die. I think on one series of the Crystal Maze, I think we lost of the 120 people that came on the whole series, or whatever it was, 90 people that came on the whole series, 3 or 4 died in the following year through motorbike accidents, or they were mountaineering, because they were all go-getting kind of people. So high-flying people, most of them who came on that show. So they did tend to sort of get themselves into situations. So there we are. I'm afraid it does happen from time to time. But no, the answer to your question is no. We never found out for sure, I don't believe. What's your favourite payout schedule for game shows? We gave you sort of 3 or 4 main options to choose from. Most people said build cash to try and win it, then all or nothing, like the chase. And the most popular behind that was Pointless, where you have a kind of a rolling jackpot, and then behind that sort of the win a small amount, but then you have a chance to gamble that for a lot higher amount, like Tipping Point. People have also said winning tournament structure.
One of the
people-
things we noticed on our Tipping Point this year, when I was working on that, is COVID's changed how people approach money on game shows. I think,
right.
yeah, I think there was, a few years back, people might have seen a couple of grand as, something there to gamble for big money. But I think in a year when people have lost their jobs,
People have
or
become
not
more
being furloughed,
cautious.
yeah, people are like, £1,000? Are you kidding? I'm taking that bad boy home. So I think it might be maybe not quite in those words, but I do think it's going to affect game shows from here on in, really, where we think of money as big money and how we gamble is something that where producers are going to have to think about when it comes to new formats, because it's usually about 10 grand, isn't it, when that will make someone go, no, I'm not giving that up.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to lower considerably.
That would be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
Right. From our shortlist, which show do you think has the best theme tune? And basically, no one has a strong opinion. Hi, Crystal Maze, interesting.
Yes.
One, followed by Blockbusters.
Where's the wheel?
And, well, people could add it if they wanted to. The wheel did get
Oh, that's good.
three votes. So
I've got the Strike It Lucky theme tune as my ringtone at the minute.
Excellent. Have you ever heard of?
have you got the really weird?
Have you ever
Have
seen
you got
this?
the really weird middle bit though?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Because-
it gets a bit tense. It gets a bit uneasy,
Oh, yeah.
like it key changes.
Have you ever
to a
seen the
minor.
Australian version? It was short-lived. It's an
No.
episode of YouTube. And Australia, I love Australia. They have themes that are a bit like our version, but slightly different to avoid copyright, I presume. It's hilarious. Look it up on YouTube. Get the chance. Strike It Like Australia.
I absolutely will.
Absolutely.
If you could pay a small fee, say £5 a month, that gave you access to game shows from other countries, such as Taskmaster New Zealand or Jeopardy in the US, would you sign up, or would you continue to use internet links or VPNs where available? And so 55% of our audience said that they would just continue as they are, and 44%, which I think is higher than I would have imagined, said that they would be prepared to shell out.
I'd sign up.
something like that.
I'm getting to the age where I can't be
I've-
bothered to mess about with stuff. I just want things to just work.
Yes.
So if I can pay
Also,
£5
we're in a
to watch,
BritBox
Yeah.
We're in a BritBox generation, if people will go on that just for sort of older sitcoms to watch from yesteryear, people will do it to watch game shows from another country,
Absolutely.
I think.
Absolutely. I do think, however, this poll is self-selecting. The people who've taken this poll are game show fans.
Yes, that's
You
true.
do this to the general public, and it'll be far,
far
far less
lower.
than 44%.
Also, if you're paying for a
Um,
VPN, you might as well pay for a service.
Yeah.
Yes, but there is a theory in some of these things that generally the most services that people will subscribe to is two. So they might sort of be like a subscriber to Spotify and Netflix, but that'll be it. And I like to get them to sign up for sort of service number 3, 4, 5 is much harder.
Yeah.
Is that
So-
quiz
I think-
one still knocking about with the highbrow
No,
quizzes? I think it's still on Virgin Media. I think. I don't know anyone who actually uses it.
Mm.
I think if you bundle it in with other
IGTV,
things,
thank you,
I
Samson.
think that's what we're going to start seeing. Bundles. So I know that O2 now start including Disney Plus on certain contracts for a certain amount of time, but it's when you start getting things like Disney Plus and this and Netflix and Amazon Prime like bundled together, then you'll start to get. Yeah, it's a whole mess, this whole streaming thing, isn't it? Is at the moment it's fragmenting. It'll come back together at some point.
Mhm. All right. Further to the previous question, tell us a non-UK game show that we think we should know about. So we've got here Joker, which is I think
It's
is that
Oliver
the word
Min.
game.
No, it's not a word game. It's a quiz game where you can pass using a joker or hitting a button, basically. Wherever you stand up a ladder,
Oh, right,
is
okay.
where what money you take home.
25 words a yes, I think we know about. Fort Boyard,
Never
I
heard of
think
it.
Nick knows a bit about. Bowling quiz from France. Holy moly, the Crazy Golf Show. The Hustler, yeah, we know about that. Basically, we know all of this anyway, so that was a waste of a question. Well, we'll see. Running Man, my wife loves Running Man.
Yeah.
It's
What
it's
is
a very
Running Man?
Basically,
it's sort of it's like celebrities sort of doing challenges for fun, and it's sort of almost like half soap opera, half challenge show. I think a lot of the challenges are slightly rigged or set up by the producers to some extent, but my wife finds it extraordinarily funny. Nevertheless, they'll basically have about 8 celebrities that stay together. They sort of live together and travel around doing various challenges, and they're quite silly things. So one might be like you have to sort of act out a certain phrase using charades, but you mustn't. You have to try and get the other person to laugh, and if they laugh, then they're out. That kind of thing. It's just it doesn't sound much on paper, but it's sort of one of these things where you kind of had to be there.
I like I Can See Your Voice, the Korean show. Have you seen that?
that's coming here. BBC One have got the rights to that, so that should be coming quite soon, I think.
Yeah, it's the funniest show. It's so good. I love the bad singers on it. It's very, very funny. Well, it'll be a good show then. What goodbye from them.
The Hidden Gem Award. So, which of the new minor shows do you think it's a special mention? So, we've got 2 outright winners. So, Celebrity Murder Mystery.
That's only a one-off, so that's
It's
done
really
pretty well for
good.
itself. Yeah, I quite enjoyed that.
I really enjoyed that. Was that
yeah.
Channel 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was a 2-parter, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Oh,
It had loads
yeah.
of twists and turns, and it was really silly, and I thoroughly enjoyed it when I wasn't expecting to,
Yeah.
actually.
They did quite a
For
lot
those
of
who
it.
don't know, Lizzie is part of a murder mystery improvisational group. So she may be biased.
Yeah, or more discerning, because I've seen a lot of murder mysteries.
And very hard questions just pipped them by 1
Get
vote.
out! No, get out. Actually, special recognition, very much so, but it doesn't say whether it's good or bad.
And finally, I haven't told all of our guests about this. Who do you think the mole is? One of tonight's panel is saying the direct opposite of what they really think. Who is it? So will the mole please make themselves known now? And in fact, I'm not going to do that because none of them are the mole. I just wanted to see who you think is most suspicious.
It's me.
And the answer is everybody thinks Dan is really suspicious.
Excellent.
I'm
I'm glad, and also I'm glad everyone thinks I'm on the right path and true for all the time. So that's good. Thanks for this.
Yeah. yeah. Dan was the least sus. So there, that was our mini game. Our mini game of Among Us there. Right. So let's thank you for taking part in that. So let's go back to the main presentation and sign off with our last quick category, which is the Golden Five. So these are the favourite shows that are currently still broadcasting. They may not necessarily be old or new shows. Well, they're going to be one or the other, but they don't have to. They could be classic shows that have been broadcast.
Going concern.
Richard Osman's name, the tiniest.
If you don't call it Richard Osman's House of Games, Ben Justice will shout at me. So there we go. Okay.
And he is notably small, isn't he?
Yes. Okay, so that was last year. So let's have just anything that was top, then Chase and Taskmaster. Okay, so that's what it was last year. So I think we just go for the
top five. Everything else will be online. Okay.
I think. Yeah.
Number 5. Who wants to be a millionaire?
Fair.
How do we feel about? I feel a lot of what I say starts with "How do we feel about?" But there's a smaller pool of contestants, isn't there, to get on the show? now,
What do you mean?
isn't
Well,
it?
you have to audition.
I mean, you have to audition.
Well,
There's
on-
is 6 fastest finger first places when it used to be 10. but-
Oh,
And it used to be a lot more, so it used to be much harder once you got on the show to get on the show.
I think it's fine. I think it allows the casting to be stronger. When you got 10 people, you might have one person or 2 people who'll just ride roughshod, the hardcore quizzes. Whereas if there's only 6 of them, there's less chance that they'll get to do that. So I think there's better representation there.
This is another show as well that might struggle with the people accepting lower offers and feeling a bit tight for cash, where these 16 grands are looking pretty tasty, I think, because I saw a
Possibly.
lot of the middle values are not exciting to watch,
No.
are they?
Oh, it
When you're
happens
like,
every time.
someone
No.
walked away for a Fiat Punto, like, congrats, pal. I'd rather see something a bit more life-changing, I think, especially for prime time.
I mean, that being said, someone did win $1 million last year. So
Yes, they did.
as long as it keeps being more evenly spread-ish amongst the tree, then it's probably fine. But yeah, if everyone starts back going at 8,000, it's going to get very boring very
again,
quickly.
casting is going to be important here. You're going to have to cast reasonably good people with a reasonably good spread of risk strategies. So I think
And this was
actually-
cast with Zoom, wasn't it? This is cast all over Zoom.
Oh,
for,
probably, yeah.
So this is, I think it's hard to cast people over Zoom because you never quite
yeah,
know
I
how they're
reckon
going to be in the room.
The £1 million contestant was brilliant, and he knew his stuff, and he did it with extreme flair, having 3 lifelines left. I may be the only person that felt this, but it did feel a bit weird that he was the brother of somebody who'd already won $500,000 on the show. Couldn't they sort of spread it out amongst
Yeah.
the households a bit better than that?
60 million people in the UK, 70 actually.
Yeah, so that was. I mean, it's not his fault that he's the brother of somebody who's also very clever. But anyway, maybe it was just me. Right, number 4, please.
4, The Chase.
Yeah.
Yeah, rightly so.
Had a good year.
Yeah,
New
very
Chase,
good,
that was good. New spin-off was good.
I saw that you a tweet that you mentioned, Nick, that if you'd have told me 10 years ago this would have been going great guns still, you'd have been totally surprised.
Yeah, I mean, but it's getting record
It's
ratings.
lasted.
It's 11 years on. It's
Yeah.
just amazing. It's unheard of, pretty much. So, fair enough. Fair play to it, really. If it knows its strengths, it plays to them. And, good on it.
It's still a bit of a behemoth, though, in that if ITV ever put anything else in its place,
The
it'll
complaints.
yeah.
Oh dear.
In fact, in some ways, I think even like Tipping Point as its kind of companion show is now beating even Pointless. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's what you call a tentpole of a show. It's like not only is that show doing well, but everything either side of it is dragging the
Yeah.
ratings up. So
Yeah.
it's a scheduler's dream.
I mean, you get people complaining when they show an earlier episode of The Chase without the new chasers' names in, either without Dara or Jenny. They go, "Have you sacked them? What an it's filmed out of."
Right, number 3.
Number 3, Taskmaster.
Interesting.
Probably the one that's-
Widely,
that's-
I saw
Go on.
lots of people thought it had a bit of an off year.
It's probably the show of the top 5 that's been hurt by COVID more than any of the others. I did think it missed
The audience, lack of audience. Yeah.
I mean, it had an audience in so much that they showed it in some cinemas and they recorded the audience laughter for that and just mixed it together. But I did think they needed it to play off.
And also, there are some tasks that require them to work together.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do when you can't be within 2 meters of
some were filmed
someone
before
else.
lockdown, some filmed afterwards.
Yeah.
So,
Some people are hugging in a tent, and then other people are outside on their very tiny circles, very socially distanced. But it's a good show.
It's a good show. I still
There's always a
enjoyed
lot of
it.
love for it.
Still laughed.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel it's
I'm
firing
looking forward to the next series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck next series as well, actually.
Yep. I felt it like it came in as feeling as if it was series 10 of something rather than the first series on Channel 4. I felt that there could have been a bit of a reset. Because I felt that there was a number of things that were very complicated about this series, not necessarily just to do with COVID. As particularly the prize tasks had quite even they had quite complicated criteria attached to them and things like that. And it seems like some of the contestants weren't terribly well briefed as well, as if they hadn't seen the show and didn't really understand it. So that was a bit of a weird thing as well.
It's well worth listening to the podcast if you get the chance, because there's a really interesting sort of behind the scenes sort of information about this sort of thing. Sort of the prize tasks, they were a bit disappointed about how it all panned out, all that sort of thing. So do give it a listen if you get a chance.
Right, here, number 2.
Number 2 is Richard Osman's House of Games.
Start typing.
I'm going to get so much hassle.
There we go.
Yeah, it just doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. All right. So look, there we go.
There we go.
It's just a light-hearted show, isn't it? It's light-hearted, and yet it's not dumbed down. It's got highbrow, it's got lowbrow, sometimes even in the same round. It somehow manages to take an intellectual game and make it appealing to a wider audience.
I like some.
It's wonderful. They're going to run out of answer smash questions. Surely they're all written.
No, answer smash is fine. Yeah,
that's my favourite round.
I like some of the new rounds this year. So I liked one with Alexander Armstrong as the Alexa sort of person. That was quite good. It's quite funny. There's other ones I've forgotten.
Scott Ruck says, "Can we have more 4-year-old question writers?" That is a lovely round. That one, I do enjoy that one. Peter Scandrett says it's just parlour games, which is good. And of course, it did make it to primetime ITV. No, primetime BBC. Although it got shuffled around a little bit.
Sounds like it didn't do that well on BBC One and primetime. Time. I can sort of understand it, I think.
Not helped by Boris having various press conferences at the time that it would be on. Do people not know that House of Games is on? Honestly,
it basically almost got the same viewers on BBC One as it did BBC Two. So it might be one of those shows that just
doesn't
has a bit of a limit. It's a bit like you could argue that the ratings for Taskmaster on Channel 4 were perhaps a little bit disappointing compared to what they perhaps might have achieved. And again, it might be one of those shows where there's only 1.5 million people who want to watch it, and that's it. And full stop. We'll see.
I thought the ceiling for Taskmaster would be about 2 million, but it's been getting 2.5 to 3. It has been going slightly down, but it's still doing all right. I don't think they're going to be upset about it, but I do think they might have thought it would have done better. Yes, certainly.
Yep. Okay, so that leaves us with number 1, which is this year.
It's The Wheel. No, it's not. It's Only Connect.
Hey.
Boringly.
I love Only Connect.
Yeah. Is it performing better than University Challenge at the moment? But it's similar. It's always been similar.
Sorry.
But
that's fine. So I'll go.
It has at times been rating better, certainly appearing to have done so. I mean, like, obviously, doesn't really help it that it keeps getting shuffled around for Nigella,
which is very rude,
like
actually.
But somebody made the excellent point that actually she had the slot sort of before Only Connect had it, so it's sort of like she's kind of only like borrowing it back for a bit.
University Challenge this year have I feel like they've sourced up the questions. Like, they're really exciting, new. They sometimes use modernish references. I like it. It sort of feels a bit jazzed up. Yeah, it feels a bit jazzed up.
I'll admit, I turned off University Challenge a long time ago because of the questions. I found them quite essentially dull and boring. Not as dull and boring as very hard questions. They were still interesting. But I'll have to maybe I'll have to plop in an episode and have a look and just see, because
It is worth
it's
a
just not
plop in. It's really good.
Yeah, it's just not something. Once you get turned off something, unless you get told to have another look, you don't tend to do that. So maybe I'll have to do that.
They've definitely said that they were going to try harder at sort of introducing women into the question material. I don't know whether there's been any other policy changes along that front, but it's interesting you say that. So I don't know why the University Challenge doesn't rate as well as, say, Only Connect does, because you'd think that they're relatively similar audiences. So I don't. Again, there's probably some element of self-selection in there. I don't know. But anyway,
I think Only
that's
Connect is
what-
much more accessible than University Challenge, though,
certainly
I
funnier.
think. Yeah.
This is an interesting point, because it's somehow, I was saying earlier about the hybrid between quiz and comedy. This is very much a quiz show that is also a funny show. A large part of that is due to Victoria, but also just, well, okay, almost entirely down to Victoria, but it's also just the way some of the questions are written. The questions are very well written. They always have been. And Jack Whaley Cohen and David McGahey, they're going to continue to do a good thing. But you don't get many shows where the host wears a cello.
Yeah, that was a fairly extreme outfit. I remember the producers having problems getting her wearing some like sporty sweatbands for a sports special once, and then
Yeah.
now she's wearing all sorts of stuff. So it's a bit ironic. So anyway, that means that once again this year, Victoria Coren Mitchell is the Game Show Prime Minister of the UK, and will be ruling over us all for the following year. And so that's just about it. So thanks very much indeed for watching. So you can follow now. So although there's much more data in terms of statistics, write-ups. When people have been voting, they've also been saying what they sort of liked and disliked about certain shows, and people enter their comments, and they're often very funny. So it's highly entertaining read. It will take us about half an hour to sort of get it up there. So if you go to ukgameshows.com, around at about 11 p.m. GMT, you'll have the full list of all of the results, all the minor placings, all your comments. It's very, very, very much worth a read.
And the best moments of the year,
I will
as the chat has pointed out.
Yep, yeah, and there'll be some links to some funny moments from the year. Yep, and then also at Bothers Bar, we will try and get some of the statistics from the poll up for around the same time as a post on bothersbar.co.uk. Dan, do you want to plug anything before we go?
If you enjoy quizzes and bingo, I do a quiz on a Thursday evening on Twitch. So follow me at QuizzyDan on Twitter or on any platform, basically. Yeah, you'll get all the details there for my quiz. My next one's Thursday, 8 p.m. I do lots of streaming throughout the evening, but that's the big one, probably of interest to the audience here. So it'd be good to see some of you there. Thank you very much, David.
So just Google QuizzyDan, and you should find Dan on the Twitters. And Lizzie, it's been your first time with us. You survived, so thank you for being with us. It's been a great pleasure to have you.
Well, thanks for having me. I can go back to my online shopping now and spending too much money.
Is there anything you want to promote? I presume like you're not doing too much touring right now.
No, I'm not. But the minute they open them theatres, we're going to start killing people in them. So that's out, legitimately. So yeah, please look us up. We're Degrees of Error, and I do a show called Murder She Didn't Write. So that's degreesoferror.com. When we can get inside, we'll hopefully entertain in our Cluedo-esque way. Thanks.
Marvelous. Excellent. So that's it. So thanks for everybody who took part in this year's poll. To the hundreds of people that have voted and thousands of votes. Special thanks to Nick for all his hard work putting it all together and allowing us to sit back and enjoy ourselves while he tells us the results. So thanks again for your sterling work, Nick.
That's all right. Always enjoy doing it.
Really good. So that's it from us all. Thanks for everyone in chat joining us, and we will see you again next year for the poll of 2021. So from us all, it's a very goodbye and stay safe, everyone. Cheers for now.
Bye.
Bye.